Lawmakers were born in the U.S. All of them are U.S. citizens and duly elected officials. And the president's message is clear. If you aren't white, you aren't welcome. More on that in a moment, but I do want to begin with CNN's Paul Verkaman in Los Angeles on these ICE raids. Paul, to be clear, there aren't any confirmed reports of ICE actually rounding up undocumented immigrants in Chicago, New York, or Baltimore. What are you hearing there on the West Coast?
Well, we were outside a detention facility, so it's not only what we were hearing. We did not see any increased activity at an ICE detention facility. And in talking to activists, they say they have not heard or seen anything, any ramped up activity. And you may know we had the same discussion 2 weeks ago here in Los Angeles. They view the threatened raids with extreme cynicism and outright abject contempt. They think this is all a political ploy by the Trump administration. It's been said again and again by these activists to whip up his political base. Now, they went so far as to try to tamp this down, not even holding a single rally or protest anywhere around here, saying they did not want to draw attention to the threatened raids, saying they didn't expect what one activist called a poltergeist moment. And they just hope that they get through the next 2 days, Monday and Tuesday, without any of the raids. And by the way, ICE in Southern California saying that raids are routine. They happen on Sundays. They work off a list, by the way, and they say that they have targeted people on their lists and they don't go through any specific raids or sweeps. That is right now. So quiet here on the Los Angeles front. Except if you listen to the activists, they're making a lot of loud racket, and they think this is just politically motivated scare tactics.
Paul Verkaman, please keep us posted if anything changes there, or even if it doesn't change. We want to make sure we inform our viewers with the latest information. I appreciate that report. I want to switch over to Boris Sanchez at the White House now on these racist tweets from the president. Boris, you now have these congresswomen, these progressive Democrats responding to the president's attacks this morning. What are they saying?
Yeah, Anna, all four of them were quick to respond. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was quick to show that the president was misinformed about her origins. She tweeted out, quote, "Mr. President, the country I come from and the country we all swear to is the United States. But given how you've destroyed our border with inhumane camps, all to benefit to you and the corporations who profit off of them, you are absolutely right about the corruption laid at your feet." We should point out Representative Ilhan Omar was born in Somalia, but she moved to the United States when she was 12. She was naturalized as a citizen when she was 17. That was some 20 years ago, so it's unclear what country the president wants her to go back to. She tweeted out this, quote, "You are stoking white nationalism because you are angry that people like us are serving in Congress and fighting against your hate-filled agenda." She then goes on to quote Bobby Kennedy. She writes, quote, "America's answer to the intolerant man is diversity, the very diversity which our heritage of religious freedom has inspired." Now, some supporters of the president, specifically on the Trump campaign, have denied that he specifically meant that these women should go back to their countries. But his intent here is clear. He's using the language of white nationalists to try to court supporters who are uncomfortable with demographic change, with immigration. And the president is trying to expose a rift in the Democratic Party. The president has long made racist remarks and said racist things. It's something that he apparently feels comfortable with. We should point out just last week, a Washington Post ABC poll put his approval rating near an all-time high in the mid-40s. Anna.
All right, Boris Sanchez at the White House. Thank you. Joining us now, Democratic presidential candidate and businessman Andrew Yang. Andrew, thank you for being here. As the son of immigrants from Taiwan yourself, what is your reaction to the president's tweet telling these Democratic congresswomen to go back where they came from?
Well, it's exactly what you're suggesting. As a son of immigrants myself, I know that when someone says to go home, in my case, I was born in upstate New York, it's the opposite of what we need from our president to try and call out these false distinctions between different types of people. We're all Americans, and certainly these are members of Congress who are born in this country. This is the opposite of what the president should be saying.
What should he be saying?
Well, what he should be saying is that let's solve the problems of the American people on the ground, which right now there are so many Americans who are struggling paycheck to paycheck. We need to actually solve the problems of the 21st century and not get bogged down in these political distractions. I agree that a lot of this is to try and gin up his base and distract from other types of issues.
Let's talk about the immigration raids that a senior Trump administration official says are underway in 9 U.S. cities today, although we haven't seen actual evidence of that just yet. Here's what the acting ICE director had to say earlier today. Listen to this.
I will say that I think using the term raid does everybody a disservice. We are doing targeted enforcement actions against specific individuals who have had their day in immigration court and have been ordered removed by an immigration judge. We are merely executing those lawfully issued judge's orders. We went above and beyond in this circumstance and gave these individuals back in February an opportunity to turn themselves in to arrange for an orderly process to be removed from the country. At this point, we have no choice but to go out and execute those lawfully issued removal orders from an immigration judge.
He says they went above and beyond and that they now have no choice but to round up these people. To that you say what?
Well, of course they have a choice. I mean, it's up to us how we're trying to enforce the policies of the United States, and most Americans agree that our resources should be focused on actual criminals and people who pose a threat, and not people who, are being involved in these ICE raids. So we have 100% discretion, and any statement to the opposite, just isn't true.
Here's what you say about the roughly 11 million undocumented immigrants living in the U.S. on your website. Quote, while these individuals are generally law-abiding people who work hard and contribute to their local communities, it's also true that they're not supposed to be here. Rounding up and deporting that many people is a non-starter, so a pathway to citizenship must be provided. However, this pathway must reflect the fact that these individuals tried to circumvent our legal immigration system. So what is your plan?
Well, my plan is to confront the reality. As it said in that statement, we have over 11 million people who are here and undocumented, and pretending we can deport that many people without collapsing regional economies, separating families, it's a total non-starter. So what we should do is we should try and integrate them into our formal economy and society by providing a path to citizenship that would allow them a real path forward, and particularly for those dreamers who have known no other life but here in the United States. We need to give them the benefits of citizenship to reflect the reality that they're living each day.
But when you say this pathway must reflect the fact that these individuals tried to circumvent our legal immigration system, what do you mean by that?
Well, there are many people who've been involved in our immigration system and have been going through the process and have, in many cases, like a multi-month or, even a multi-year long waiting period. They have to go through like a vetting process about, obviously not having broken any laws, about paying tax, about passing tests. And so whatever process we devise for people who are here and undocumented should keep in mind that we have this existing process and many people that are going through it. And the process for people who are here and undocumented should be a step up from that.
Okay, so and a step up from that would be what?
Well, it would be somewhat longer in time frame. It would involve having paid your taxes, not having committed any felonies, just making sure that we know who you are, that we have a sense as to the fact that you're going to be a vital and positive member of our society.
Okay, reporters were recently given a rare glimpse inside the Border Patrol facility near McAllen, Texas, that houses adult male migrants. Reporters say in this specific facility, the stench at the facility holding the adult men was overpowering. Agents were wearing masks, in fact. Men were crowded behind these cage fences, which we can see in the video. And they were yelling, according to the pool reporter, they were yelling that they hadn't been allowed to shower for days, in some cases weeks. The president disputed that characterization. He also tweeted, quote, sorry, can't let them into our country. If too crowded, tell them not to come to the USA and tell the Dems to fix the loopholes. Problem solved. Andrew, have Democrats done enough?
Well, the conditions that people are being held in are unconscionable. And the fact is, we need to do more to enforce our policies at the border. We need to ramp up the investment in facilities and case managers and certainly asylum judges. And that's where the Democratic Party's attention is focused, I believe, and should be focused, is actually trying to make it so that our policies at the border reflect the experience that people have when they actually try to come into our country.
Let's say voters choose to send you to the White House next November and this crisis is still ongoing. Day one, what would you do with the migrants already in U.S. custody?
Well, what I would do is I would travel to these facilities, I would see for myself what the conditions are, and then I would make the necessary investments, because right now we have hundreds of unfilled positions at the border, and the deficiency here is one of will, of resources, and of us being able to actually put our policies into effect in a way that reflects our values, and that's what I would do as president.
Do you decriminalize border crossings?
Well, when I looked at the facts around criminalizing border crossings, the fact is it's gumming up criminal courts toward the border, and they're dealing with migrants as criminals, and they don't have the resources to deal with other people who actually are committing crimes. So I think treating it as a civil offense is the right approach.
A civil offense, so you would decriminalize it and just go through the civil courts.
Well, we need a different process, but yeah, like having them go through our criminal system, it doesn't really make any sense because our criminal system is not designed for this.
Okay, presidential candidate Andrew Yang, good to have you with us. Thank you for sharing your ideas. We hope you'll come back to let us know more about the vision you have for the future of the country. Thanks. Coming up,
thank you.
What caused the